GV70 is Korean maker Genesis showing us what it believes a mid-sized premium badged SUV should be. It'll be a rare sight on our roads, but the right kind of customer might well like this car's beautifully finished, spacious cabin, assured driving dynamics and class-leading customer support package.
Whatever GV70 powertrain choice you've decided upon, petrol, 2.2 litre diesel or even full electric, a few things impress themselves upon you over the first few miles. The first is that though this isn't the brand's largest SUV, it's still nearly 2 metres wide and tips the scales at around 2 tonnes. Size and heft you really sense on narrow roads and through steering, pedal and body movement, though in a nicely controlled and comfortable way. Comfort indeed seems to have been the overriding priority in developing the drive dynamics here, as you can feel by the way that this Genesis deftly handles porous surfaces, but also through the way it wafts and lopes across crests and dips of typical major and secondary routes. It's helped in this by this model's standard party piece, what the company calls electronic control suspension adaptive damping, which employs a front-facing camera to read the road surface ahead, automatically priming the adaptive dampers to reduce body movement and wheel impact over bumps and undulations. We mentioned engines, both of which drive all 4 wheels and work via an 8-speed auto paddle shift gearbox through various tarmac and off-road orientated drive modes. Here we're trying the sporty sounding 300 bhp 2.5 litre petrol variant, but the running costs of that are a little high. So you might be drawn instead to the alternative 206 bhp 2.2 litre diesel variant, which delivers more affordable efficiency ratings, 40 mpg on the combined cycle and up to 185 grams per kilometre of CO2. If you really prioritise frugality though, you'll want to look at the pricier electrified version. With that, twin motors, one on each axle, deliver 4-wheel drive and a potent 483 bhp output, while the 77.4 kilowatt-hour battery manages a WLTP rated range reading of 249 miles between charges. The V in the model name here stands for versatile, and the styling cues that mark out the Genesis brand's first wave of European models are certainly that, replicated on all of them. You might call it almost Bentley-esque from the front, where, as usual with the brand, there's this enormous, hatched, so-called crest grille, which seems to have been borrowed straight from Crew, but which the Korean maker insists is thoroughly unique. More distinctly Genesis are these trademark LED quad headlamps, creating a frontal visage that at first glance seems identical to that of the larger GV80 model. Actually though, everything below grille level is distinct to this GV70, primarily these wide gaping corner cutouts and the shiny black finishing that decorates the bottom of the lower intake. The 4.7 metre long profile perspective is the one that best illustrates this mid-sized crossover model's distinct identity, mainly because the swept-back coupe-style roofline and this unusual arching parabolic line which begins at the top of the quad lamps and angles steeply back down through the doors to disappear somewhere in the rear wing. We think the rear is possibly the GV70's most appealing angle, these twin-strip LED tail lights featuring the same ultra-thin signature as the quad lamps up front. Not sold yet? Well, Genesis reckons you will be by the time you take a seat inside the plush cabin. So let's take a look now. According to Genesis, the design here was inspired by the beauty of white space concept used in traditional Korean architecture. And there are certainly some nice design touches. The oval aircraft wing style motif chosen for the mid-level fascia controls that stretch either side of the broad steering wheel. And this smart silver strip that starts in the doors and then flows around the dash, widening to allow slim black vents either side of the instrument binnacle and in front of the passenger. The first box almost all Genesis customers tick is the one for the extra cost innovation pack, because without it you spoil the instrument binnacle with old-fashioned dials and a smaller 8-inch screen. With that pack installed, there's this much more satisfying 12.3-inch TFT display, which changes its colour with a selected drive mode and illuminates with a gentle 3D effect. Equally impressive is the standard 14.5-inch infotainment screen, which decorates the top of the dash, leaving the usual place in the middle of the centre stack for this neat climate display. The seats aren't especially commandingly positioned, but they're very comfortable and can be specified in ventilated active ergo motion form to adapt with the bends. All-round visibility is good, and there's a reasonable level of cabin storage provision. Time to take a look in the rear. The back seats conform to the class norm with comfortable space for two, but the promise of a bit of a squash for any more unfortunate third centre occupant, whose feet would need to be splayed either side of this medium-height centre transmission tunnel. Headroom's very class competitive, even with a sunroof fitted. Legroom not quite so much, and unfortunately it can't be improved by the kind of seat-based sliding functionality you'd get in this class from, say, an Audi Q5. The seat backs do recline, though, for greater comfort on longer journeys. Let's finish with a look out back, where, as you'd expect, the boot is accessed by a power tailgate, though there doesn't seem to be provision for a kick-action sensor to operate it. So here's the main part of the car where you'll really notice the difference between this and its larger GV80 SUV stablemate. That model's 735 litre capacity, falling to 542 litres here. There are sidewall catches to flatten the rear bench, which when activated free up 1,678 litres. If the last few years have taught us anything, it's that it's time to do something different. That should certainly apply to the factors that influence our purchase decisions, and take the choice of a car of this kind. The German establishment in this class focuses on technology and drive dynamics. This Genesis can offer that too, but the emphasis here is more on comfort and the ownership experience. No, you can't attack the corners in a GV70 as perhaps you could in an X3, and in the kind of way you'd certainly want to in a Porsche Macan. But few segment customers are interested in doing that anyway. What they want is a car that prioritises their brand values rather than its own makers. This Genesis, rather cleverly, does exactly that.